of your leaders, teachers, and preachers. Far too long you have stumbled in darkness searching for light. We have a man in our midst who can bring forth truth fact beyond doubt, that can open the eyes and ears of those lost in darkness. As Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi is that man, and the author of over 150 books of a religious and scientific nature. As Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi has brought forth this information straight from the scriptures, so it cannot be denied. So we invite you to listen, to learn from the true light featuring as Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi.
نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الوالي الكريم وصلى الله على الأنبياء أجمعين والمسيح والمهدي والمجدد لمن مرسلين. Are we not the bearers of witness that nothing would exist if Allah didn't create it, and that He is alone and has no partners, and that all gratitude is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sustainer of all the boundless universes. All gratitude is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the generous eternal friend, and send salutations of Allah on all of His prophets and His apostles, and on the Messiah, the anointed one, and on the Mahdi, the guide, and on the Mujaddid, the reformer, which was all sent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send greetings and we send peace throughout the boundless universe to all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
You're now listening to The True Light with Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi.
And I'm asking, why such disunity amongst the Muslims?
I think it would be easier if to point out to the brother that the reason why there's so much disunity amongst Muslims in North America, like the Christians, the Baptists, Seventh-day Adventists, Holy Rollers, Catholics, Protestants, etc., is because they have a lot of self-styled teachers, and very few men in North America have found their way to the Qur'an, because they were influenced by teachers from Pakistan and other countries whose native tongue is not Arabic. A lot of Muslims in America who are imams or ayimah, leaders of congregations, don't even speak the Arabic language fluently, have never read the Qur'an in Arabic, and are following a lot of very poor translations of hadith. And if you try to find out what a Muslim is, or what is the tariq Allah, or sabil Allah, the way of Allah Ta'ala, you'd have to go directly to the Qur'an. And if you open the Qur'an to the second chapter of the Baqarah, you get a direct picture of what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says a Muslim should be. And anyone who adheres to that is Muslim. Anyone who does not isn't. So I think you have the problem in the Western Hemisphere is a lack of knowledge on the part of a lot of Americans who have converted to Islam without the language and without the root of Islam, and therefore they are forming these splinter groups and denominations, much like what happened from the one man, Isa ibn Maryam, known as Jesus the Messiah. Many different people came out of him, and now today you can run into 100 different denominations of Christianity, and they all claim to be right. I would say that when you go to something like the African Islamic Mission in America, and they put on a seminar, I think the first thing that everybody on the panel should be confronted with is their knowledge of the Qur'an and the Sunnah of Rasulullah in accordance to the language in which it was revealed. Any man who gets up there as imam of a jama and doesn't even understand the language, is not supposed to be a leader. Point blank, the word he takes on as a title, imam, is an Arabic word. The word he takes on, Muslim, is an Arabic word. Mu'minun, and even kafir. All these are Arabic words. He must at least have a foundation of the Qur'an before he takes on a position of, leader of the people. So if you would have questioned those people up there at that panel, if you were given the permission to question them, you'd have probably found out that most of them became Muslims 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, and have never did any intensive study of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. All the books they read, you can read. 90% of them come from the hard Pakistan, and have been translated by Pakistanis who don't even know the native tongue. And like one of the spokesmen said, whereas Africa has more Muslims in Africa than all of Arabia and Iraq and Iran together, with the scholars on Islam who they don't even recognize. They got translations of Qur'an by men from Sudan who they don't even recognize. Tafsir al-Qur'an, Sirah, fiqh, all of these things done by Africans, but they will not even allow them into the arenas of discussion amongst Ijma because of the color of their skin. But I think you approach that situation, if you approach it from the level of qualification, meaning quality and not quantity, you'd solve the problem.
I'm a student in Franklin K. Lane High School, and this is my last year, and I have 4 years to attain in college. And I'm looking forward to advancing my knowledge in Islam. Really, I am.
Many universities in the Arab world go to. You have to be very careful because every country you go into, you're influenced by the school of thought. If you go to the university in Egypt, you're influenced by a school of thought. You go to university in Omdurman, or Khartoum in Sudan, or in Al-Aziz University in Sharq al-Awsat, Saudi, you're going to be influenced by somebody's thought. The main thing that you got to establish with these people is that you are interested in Islam. You're not interested in his Islam. You're not interested in Sheikh Hassan al-Banna's interpretation of Islam, which they call Ikhwani Muslimin. You're not interested in the Wahhabi school. First of all, teach me about Allah Ta'ala. Teach me then about Rasuluhu. Teach me then about Kutubuhu. Then let me decide about the Khulufa, which Khalifa was correct and which one. But first take me to the first person you want to learn is Hu Allah, Alladhi la ilaha illa huwa. That's the first thing you want to understand before you get caught up on which prophet was correct and which one was more accurate and which hadith is correct and which one was more accurate. So let me take you to the Qur'an. If you have a Qur'an, if you open to the 2nd chapter, if anyone has one, they can. We're going to look at what Allah Ta'ala says. Bismillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. First of all, the very statement, Bismillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim, that begins all of the surah of the Qur'an, with the exception of the 9th for a very good reason, right, has its own meaning. When you say Bismillah, you're saying Ba-ismi Allah. The word ism means name or noun. The word, when they say bi in Arabic, by way of. In Arabic we have 2 words for with. We have actually more, but 2 outstanding words for with. One of them is ma, with, to accompany, and the other is bi, like ana aktub bil kalam. I write with a pen. But just notice this with is by way of, not I write ma kalam. I don't write with as if it's accompanying me. You understand the difference? And in this specific verse, Bismillah, it starts off by way of Allah. You understand? Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Now when you look at the word Ar-Rahman, you're looking at Rahim. The word Rahim means womb. Many people translate the word as merciful, compassionate, and meant yielder, etc. The word in Arabic language, the masdar of the word is Rahim, and it means the womb of a woman. The word Rahman and the word Rahim are the exact same word. The noon at the end of the first word merely implies in Lughat al-Arabiyyah that you put more emphasis on it than the word Rahim. Now, we have learned as Muslims that a Muslim can take the name Abdul Rahman, but he cannot take the name Abdul Rahim. And this is mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alright, why is this so? If we understood the meaning of the word Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, then we'd understand why. Ar-Rahman meaning a womb. Why? A woman, when she gave birth to in the time of Rasulullah, did not lay down. She stood up. This is the proper way to give birth. And a midwife caught the baby. You follow? This is how people are supposed to deliver, not laying on their back, which makes complications. All right. The womb of the mother yields for the baby to pass through. This yielding that a child goes through when it comes into this world is why it cries. When it passes from the comfort of the mother's womb, which is symbolic of Jannatul Eden, the Garden of Eden, when man was created by Allah Ta'ala as ruh, before the nefsah could manifest. When he was a spirit, before his personality came, his person came, he was in the bosom of Allah Ta'ala, in what's called lahut. He passed through the stages of lahut to malakut, the angelic abode, where he inherited the etheric body. And then he came down and personified as nasut, the physical being. When he came into this world, the environment, the negative qadr, which is known as tamar, He felt this. He left the comfort of the mother's womb like when man left the garden. When man violated the commandment of Allah Ta'ala, when he said they put the tree, the shajara, in the wasat of Jannah, in the center of the garden. And he said that man could touch everything in the garden except this tree. What did man do? He went directly to the tree. Did the Almighty Allah Ta'ala destroy man at that instance? No. He yielded. He pardoned. He not only yielded to Adam, but he also yielded to Iblis. He even told Iblis, I will despite you until Yawm al-Qiyamah, or Yawm al-Akhir. I'll even let you go until Yawm al-Akhir. You follow that? So therefore, he yielded to man, and man was put out of the garden. Get ye down from here. And he left the garden like a baby leaves the womb of his mother. And the way a baby cries, and he goes, when he breathes, man has been summoned to cry, Allah. This is why we go, Allah, when we come up this way. Allah, Allah, Allah. In Adhan, in Salah, in the Qur'an, in Dua, wherever a Muslim begins, he starts off, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, like a baby. Now we're in this world, because we have forfeited the right of the womb of Allah Ta'ala, which was the Garden of Eden, when we was under His protection and nourishment. You follow that? That is Bismillah, by this name, Allah. The baby goes, he's crying Allah all the way, and all for the rest of your life you walk around saying Allah. Then Allah is Ar-Rahim. If we remember His name and keep it sacred, He will again yield to us, it says, and we will enter back into Jannah, the garden of paradise, or enter back in to the womb. Now Isa ibn Maryam tried to make this clear to his disciples when he said, unless you are born again, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. And one of the disciples said, you mean I must go back into my mother's womb? They understood the meaning of it, you see, but they interpreted it wrong. He meant, yes, you must be like a baby again. The way you came out of the Garden of Eden and out of your mother's womb, Rahman. Now Ar-Rahim, you must work your way back in. So a Muslim can say he is Abdul Rahman, because that implies leaving the garden and coming out. That is the difference between the word Insha'Allah and Ma'Sha'Allah. Ma'Sha'Allah was when man was in the garden. Everything was as the way Allah Ta'ala wants it. In the world, it's if. Insha'Allah, if it pleases Allah, if it be Allah's will. MashaAllah, what pleases Allah, what is Allah's will? There's two abodes. So out of the garden man came, and he is now Abdul Rahman, servant or slave of He who set us out of the garden, out of His compassion and His mercy and His yielding powers. But he cannot say he is Abdul Rahim, because he don't know if he's going to get back in. You can't say, I'm the servant of the one who's going to let me back in paradise before you get there. So Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was forbidden for his followers to say or take the name Abdul Rahim, though they could take the name Abdul Rahman. That is just the simple meaning of the tasmiyah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim alone, before we even go into the surah of the Qur'an. Then we start off where Allah put three initial letters before it. Alif, Lam, and Mim. We are about to embark upon in this surah. And why do you think they call it the heifer, or as some translate it, the cow? Because it deals strictly with Bani Israel and their relationship to Bani Ismail. The relationship of the children of Israel under the guidance of the prophets from Adam to Isa and Maryam, and then down to the sons of Ismail, you, from Isa on up to the Khatam and the end, Muhammad Rasulullah. You follow? So they have Alif, Adam, Ibrahim, Lam, Laylatul Qadr. Why Laylatul Qadr? Laylatul Qadr is a night of that things can happen. They call it the night of power. However, the word Qadr, Qaf, Del, Ra, the Lughat al-Arabiya, means I can do a thing. أنا أقدر أن أتكلم. اللغة الفرنسية. I can speak French. أنا أقدر أن أكون هناك بكرة. I can be there tomorrow. أقدر. It also is a translation for the word karma, things that can and will happen in this universe. Okay, go on. So, Laylatul Qadr means the night in which it could happen. What could happen? The night in which Allah Ta'ala, through the angel Jibreel and Ar-Ruh, because it says the angels and the spirit, He would open the heavens and send down the Qur'an al-Kareem to the heart of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This night it could be done. And why I'm saying this ahead of time, because this is what we're getting to what a Muslim is. So before we get to what a Muslim is, we got to get to the code that keeps him a Muslim, which is the coming of this Qur'an. Some people say this means, Allah, am the best of knowers. The word for Noah in Arabic is either Adr, Arif, or Alam. None of those words begin with Alif. If that started off Ayn, then you can say Ayn for Alam, to know. Best Hasan, Hasana. There is no Ha up there, no letter Ha. Right? There is a Ha mean before Quran, but there is none here. So if somebody comes along and says, the best I can tell you is that this means Allah is the best knower. No equations to lead to that meaning, unless you read Surah Al-Baqarah through and see what it's about. If I put an initial before something, it has a signature. It's a signature for something. Laylatul Qadr. Then tell me the last two prophets of Allah Ta'ala to raise a nation, and you'll come out with Nabi Musa alayhi salam and Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Isa is in between Nabi Musa and Nabi Muhammad. And they liken Nabi Muhammad to Nabi Musa, not Isa, in Deuteronomy. I will raise up a prophet from amongst the brothers of Israel like myself. Right? So, the meme on the end is symbolic of from Adam Alif, Laylatul Qadr, the night in which these things happen, not just the night in which the Qur'an came, but the night in which the Torah, Zubur, Injil, and Suhufin. And it could be the Upanishads in the back of the read in other books of Hinduism, because it doesn't specify that it isn't. You see? But that's what the initial letters, from Allah Ta'ala to the night of power to the Prophet Muhammad, who is Khatim Anbiya, the stamp or the ring of all the other apostles. Now we start into the meaning of what a Muslim is. Allah Ta'ala says to us, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ. You see it? The first word there, ذَلِكَ, means this or that. ذَلِكَ, that. The ka on the end of that means that, like pointing. Why? Because the text that Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was receiving was not complete. He was looking at the way of it, the inspirational Quran, the one that he was, this, Iqra, look at, read it, something he hadn't had yet. He wasn't sitting in the cave with a pen and a pencil. So it had to have been previously written. So the angel had to have a written copy of the Quran for Muhammad to read, first of all. Not recite. Iqra does not mean recite. Iqra means to read. Qara'a, Qur'an, or reading. Atakallam, atahaddathu. Many Arabic words for speak, recite, proclaim, but this word, Iqra, means read something, to look at something written and read it. And that's what Jibreel, alayhi salatu wasalam, ordered the Prophet Muhammad in the cave. So they say to him, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ, that text, or that excerpt, that writing, yes, that writing, la, there isn't any rayba fihi. There isn't any question or doubt in this. That's what he says right there. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. Then he goes on to tell you what it is. He says, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Here's the point we're coming at. Huda is one of Allah Ta'ala's special names. El-Hadi. The one that can lead you right, the guide. The one that will lead you to where you're supposed to go. And he refers to it as Hudan lil-Muttaqeen. And the reason why they say mustaqim, because they talk about taqwa. In the Qur'an, there are 3 different words for fear. You have the word khawf, you have the word khashya, and you have the word taqwa. Word khawf has its root in the word kha, like a sheep. This is fear of what is going to happen to me if I don't obey the law. This is fear of Jahannam, hell. Fear of judgment. That's that fear. Khasha. This fear is the fear like taqwa. Taqwa is, if I say to you, Huwa Allah, Huwa Alladhi, La ilaha illa huwa al-khaliq al-bari. If you had taqwa, you'd want to cry. You see? It's a fear of reverence and adorance. You want to cry when you hear the name of Allah Ta'ala in its proper order. Whereas khasha is a fear that if I didn't have Islam, I'd have nothing. I don't know what I'd be if I didn't have the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Those are 3 different types of fear. In this section of the Qur'an, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala tells Rasulullah, there's no doubt or question in this text. It is a guidance for those who are taqwa. You follow? They just want to weep when they think about the beauty of the creation of the cosmos, Kawan. Then it goes on, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ, now he's telling you about them. Those who, what do? The people who recognize the scripture as not having any doubt, and it have this beautiful fear that will guide them. These are they who yu'minu. The word yu'minu comes from aman. Alif, mim, noon. People have translated the word mu'minun as believer. Until I realized that was the Christian and the Jew's work, to call a Muslim a believer. Why is the question, right? Because you can believe in something and not be loyal to it. You understand? But to have faith in something and to be faithful and loyal to it is what is called for as Muslims. Not just to believe. Now I'll give you an example. I spoke last week about a model. There's ways to follow. One is to have a model, and one is to have merely an example. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was more than just an example for us. He was also a model. Someone whose ways we want to imitate to the letter. A Christian cannot claim the right to follow the model of Isa ibn Maryam because Jesus' life was so above the normal man that nobody could follow him exactly. You follow that? The things he did as a model, as an avatar, as a mystic, the average man cannot even imagine. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, born of a mother and father with normal situation, came as a man, illiterate like the normal. They made him illiterate so that even the illiterate can accept it. There's no excuse, you see. You see that? So we have a model, and then we have people who worship the man who did a certain thing, but they can't imitate it. Alright, Muslims are called here to be وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Yu'minuna means as for those who are faithful and loyal, because many people say Shahada and are not faithful and loyal. Muslim this week and Hare Krishna next week and Buddhist the following week and Christian the following week. Many take it, but loyalty is special. And it's called these people, it says yu'minuna bil-ghaybi. Why ghaybi? The word ghayba means that you don't see it. Now what does that mean? Have you seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No. Have you seen Rasulullah Muhammad? No. Yet you are being called to follow Muhammad and to worship who? Allah Ta'ala. Without seeing them. Have you seen your soul? Not your own. Have you seen me? Don't answer abruptly. Have you seen me? No. What do I mean by that? When you look at an individual, you don't see them, you know. You see light reflected off the eye, through the retina, through the optic nerve, and then waves interpret a picture in the brain. You understand that? You don't really see them. You see a picture developed of them. You have never seen anybody. You feel people. That's why a person can walk in a room and you can turn around. Or you say, I'm getting ready to call David, and pick up the phone, and David picks up, is on the other line. You have ether body. You have never seen anybody. But Allah Ta'ala asks those who are faithful to hold that faithful sabr with al-haq, truth and patience, because they will not always see. Isa ibn Maryam, on the other hand, his disciples watched him perform unbelievable feats, and they still questioned and doubted him. They likened him in the Bible. I'll give it very clear, when a contradiction or a confusion or whatever way you want to take it, but it's there. They asked Jesus to show them a sign, some kind of miracle. And what did he say there? He said, an evil and adulterous nation seeketh after a sign. Remember that statement? And there shall what? And there shall no sign come unto them except the sign of Jonah. Now wait a minute. If Jesus performed miracles, then he did show signs. So either somebody made a mistake when they said no signs, because he performed signs. We all know, they recorded. Somebody either wrote the wrong story, or they had a different meaning. They had a different meaning. Except the sign of Jonah. And what was the sign of Jonah? Huh? First of all, one of Jonah's attributes was he doubted. When he was told that he had to go to Nineveh, he said what? Not me.
We will return with the true light after this brief intermission. Now is the time to ask questions of your leaders, teachers, and preachers. Where did all the races of people come from? Why did John have to baptize Jesus at the Jordan? And why do the four Gospels contradict each other? The answer to these questions can be with only one man, as Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, the man who has written over 150 books on such topics as, is there life on other planets? How were the pyramids built? What race was Adam and Eve? And was the Holy Quraan made up by Muhammad, or was it a divine scripture sent from the Most High? And what is the difference between the spirit and the soul? The answer to these questions can be found in the most dynamic books in history, authored by Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. These books can be purchased at the original Tensakita at 719 Bushwick Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11221. Would you like to see the man behind the voice you hear teaching the total truth? He is there at the Hall of Knowledge located at 548 Hart Street, Brooklyn, New York. Every Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m., the Nubian Islamic Hebrews would like to invite you to question and answer classes with Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. Come listen and learn. Hear the words of truth for yourself. Hear the answers to long-awaited questions. Also for your spiritual growth, an intricate design woven prayer rug designed by the hand of Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. Also available are prayer beads, incense, and oils. If you would like any further information on these items, contact the original Tents of Kedar, 719 Bushwick Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11221. And be sure to ask for a listing of the most dynamic books in history, authored by Saeed al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. Now let us continue with the true light. Remember, you are the light, and you have the power over all things.
When Jesus, the Messiah, son of Mary, was told it is time for him to die, he said, "Oh my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass by me. Not of my will, but that thy will be done." He weakened, and he said, what? My spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. Like Jonah, he did not want to go on to Nineveh. Nineveh was symbolic of a place, for Jonah a place. But in Jesus' life, it meant going on. Jesus didn't want to do it. So, Jonah was swallowed by Quraysh. The word Quraysh really means a big fish. He was by the well. And there he died or lived. Tell me. Did he die or live while in the well, Jonah? Huh? Was he alive in the belly of the well for 3 days and 3 nights, or was he dead? Oh, you know? He was alive 3 days and 3 nights. Jesus, as they say, went to the cross. And then they changed the prophecy that he made of his likening himself to Jonah and said he died. Instead of completing the story of the likeness of Jonah and say for 3 days and 3 nights, wherever he was, he had to have been alive. Because he likened himself to the prophecy of Jonah, and Jonah was alive for 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale. So wherever Jesus was, which we can get into, but we won't, he was alive for 3 days and 3 nights. The only miracle that he was supposed to have performed was to liken himself to Jonah. You follow what I'm trying to say? However, Muhammad, on the other hand, his most profound miracle was who he was. Now you tell me the greatness of a man. I wave my hand and I materialize an object in front of you, and 20 men follow me. Or if you just sit down and talk about Allah, and 20 men follow you, which man appears to have the most deen? The one who waves his hand and materializes an object and gets 20 men to follow him, or the man who sits down and talks about Allah without materializing anything and gets 20 men to follow him? Which man appears to have the strongest power? Huh? Can you tell me? Of course, the man who did not materialize anything. Because what he materialized was followers from nothing, not from miracles. You understand what I'm saying? So we are Muslims being asked to believe. Now this is not have faith in. The unseen. He's telling us that inside man there's latent powers that lay dormant, waiting to be raised. I mean, Alam Nashra, when it speaks of that in the Quraan, when it says, did we not bind you and open your chest? I hope you don't think some people came and ripped the Prophet Muhammad's door open and took his heart out. When they said expanded his chest, made it bigger, extended it. They're speaking about his inspiration. They're speaking about his bone. They say he made an Isra. I hope you don't think he was laying in his bed and something, a big horse really came in his room and he rode this horse to Jerusalem. It means he astro projected. You know about astro projection, I assume. He means astro travel. Why? Because the word Isra in Arabic is the same word for sayyara, car. To travel. Now the miracle was not in the fact that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam traveled. The miracle was the distance he traveled in one night. He traveled from Mecca to Jerusalem in one night. Back then, that was a miracle. Today you can take a plane from Mecca to Jerusalem in a couple hours. It wouldn't be a miracle. What was a miracle then is not a miracle now. They're asking me and you to have patience. And Jesus said, he who endures to the end, the same shall be saved. The Quraan says what? وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And exalt people to sabr, patience, and al-haq. Facts beyond doubt. That's what he's talking about when he asks a Muslim to believe in that which he does not see. To accept it. Then it says, وَيُقِمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. The word yuqimun comes from the word qum. Get up. Rise. Not assemble. Get up. It speaks about people who would yuqimun as-salat, would get up for salah. The word salah does not mean prayer, it means to worship. Dua is prayer. Salah is the actual exercise, the motions of creation. It speaks about these people now. The first thing a mu'minun is asked is to believe in things you don't see. You understand? So listen to what we come to. And they rise for the worship. وَمِمَّا, and of what? Razaq, one of Allah's attributes again. And of what we, razaqnahum, provided them, yunfikun. They give freely. They know that nothing here is theirs. We just got to go through this one more point before we finish this little short section on what a Muslim is. Then I'll let you ask questions about it. And if the thing that Allah, they realize that nothing is theirs, if Allah, and therefore, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. And live four of them by each other. Allah is al-Razak. He knows what he's doing though. The main thing he comes to here, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْكَ. Now here's the point that Ansari are trying to make these other Muslims see, that for some reason they're blocking. They have a ghishawa, a covering on them. This is what we're trying to make them see, that this is Qur'an. I'm not talking about Bukhari, I'm not talking about Shafi, I'm not talking about Hanbali, I'm not talking about Muslim, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about Allah Ta'ala's Qur'an. What does it say first? It says, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ, and those who are faithful, بِمَّا, by what? You see, by way of it. I write by way of it, not just say I believe it, by what was unzila, revealed, sent down, ilayka, to you. Who is this Quran coming to? The Prophet Muhammad. And in this Quran right here in the 2nd chapter, we get to the point where Allah says, those who are faithful to what was revealed to you. What was revealed to him? The Quran. It's telling us to be faithful to the Quran, right? But it didn't stop there, and it didn't change the terminology. The nomenclature stayed the same, the language stayed the same. It went on to say, وَمَا, and what, unzila, and what was sent down, mean from qablika, before you. It tells you to be faithful to what was sent to Muhammad, which is the Quran, and it tells you that these people who he's talking about, who are the Muslims, are faithful to what was sent before Muhammad. And what do you think he's talking about? He tells you in there he's talking about the Quran, the Torah, the Injil, Suhufin, then they mention something else that a lot of Muslims don't even pay attention to. Kitabul Hikmah, the text of wisdom, which I won't even discuss. That's reserved for the Sufiya. Because it's mentioned in the Quran, a text called Kitabul Hikmah. And Kitabul Hikmah says, where Kitabul Hikmah? Kitabul Hikmah is not the Quran, though the Quran is Hikmah. Kitabul Hikmah is not the Torah, though the Torah is Hikmah, wisdom as they would call it. But this verse is a small part of a Muslim's life, this section right here. What is it telling us? This is a scripture of Allah that has no doubt in it. It's a guidance for those people who fear. Those who have faith in the unseen, and they rise every time they hear the call of prayer, and of all the things they have on earth they give freely. And those who have a faith in that which we gave to you, Muhammad, and in that which was before you. So you want to find a Muslim according to the Quran, you ask him, do you believe in Allah? He says, Naam. Do you believe in his Prophet Muhammad? Naam, yes. Do you believe in the Quran? Yes. Do you believe in the Torah? What has been tampered with? I didn't ask you for your opinion. I asked you in accordance to this text. Do you believe in the Torah? And here's the point. They'll say the Torah was tampered with. Was that after the revelation of the Quran came or before? Was the Torah tampered with before the Quran came to Rasulullah or after? Now, it couldn't have been after, because the Quran says Jews altered words. And if it was before, then this section shouldn't be here. You follow the point? If it was tampered with before this section came, then he should have told us, believe in that which was revealed to you, Muhammad, and be cautious of that which was revealed before you, because it had been tampered with. If it was tampered with before the Quran. If it was tampered with after the Quran, then you have another problem. Then the Quran couldn't have mentioned it being tampered with before. So you don't have the right to decide that Allah's words are tampered. You understand the point I'm trying to make? That is a Muslim. I can go on, and it says, إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَاتِ هُمْ يُقِنُونَ. Akhir means ending. And by way of the ending, they are qanun. They're definitely going to make it. So the people who follow all those things, based on the end of things, when it all comes to a total, they're going to make it. Anybody who don't do that, we can't guarantee they're going to make it. So if you take it upon yourself to tell your congregation, don't read the Bible, you're taking a big, big step. when Rasulullah himself told his followers to seek knowledge from there, which was Mecca, to where? To China. Do you think he thought they were going to go and find Islam in China? Did you think he thought that? If he was the founder of Islam, which some people believe, in Mecca, and he told his followers to go to seek it out in China, you think he's going to go to China and find what he just established behind him? He was telling his followers to study everything, to know everything, because you have to become defenders of the deen. You cannot defend Islam if you don't know other people's religions. How can you defend Islam against Christianity if you don't understand Christianity? Because you have many scholars in university tell you right now, oh, Islam, the religion founded by Muhammad in the year 570, the Arab prophet who spread his religion by the sword. Yeah, he was a violent man. You say, well, hold it. Didn't Jesus turn tables? Didn't one of Jesus' disciples cut off the servant's ear? What was that? That wasn't violence? Didn't Moses and the Israelites fight against the Amorites and the Hittites? Wasn't that violence? Didn't the prophet Ibrahim fight to defend Lot against the tribes with the help of Melchizedek? Was that violence? There was not a prophet who walked the earth who did not in some way or the other meet with or indulge in some violence because of the ignorance of men and the Lord to defend yourself. You follow that? So I call them to deal with Ansar Allah community from the Qur'an, the word of Allah. I don't call for them to deal with Ansar Allah community from the hadith of men. Not that we don't follow hadith. Let me make that clear also. Why the Ansar Allah community will bicker over the word hadith alone. Firstly, I've read hadith in Arabic that's using words that an illiterate man couldn't use. Yet, these are supposed to be sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad, we forget. The Quraan calls Ummi. Right? It says he only had the knowledge of a man who lived under his mother because his father had died before he was born. So he was a Ummi, an illiterate man. Now, some of the hadith you read that deal with the formation of the moon and how a woman menstruates and all this advanced science could not have come out the lips of the Prophet Muhammad. And this Qur'an itself did not come out of his mouth. It came through him. Because when the angel Jibreel spoke to him and said, Ya Muhammad Iqra, he said, Jibreel ma'ana biqariyan. That's dialect. That's not even fasiyah. That's not the fusha of the Qur'an. That's not fusha Arabic the way he answered. But the way the angel spoke, he said, Ya Muhammad Iqra. He said, Jibreel ma'ana biqariyan. I am not a reader. I don't belong to the scholars. But he didn't answer. Ana lastu minal qariyan. I am not of the. He didn't use the classical, he used dialect. I've seen Laysa in the hadith. Laysa is classical Arabic. You understand? If the Prophet Muhammad, think about this before you get confused by somebody. If the Prophet Muhammad did not speak classical Arabic, someone had to take his words and interpret it to classical Arabic. You understand that? And when that happens, what happens to meaning? Like you heard that brother say, you got the tall brother to Ed. He said, there's a hadith that says that Aisha saw the black slaves in the corner of the mosque, and the word they use is Habashi. You know the word Habashi is? Arabic word for Abyssinian. You understand the difference? Abyssinian is Ethiopian. But the translation there says black slaves. Doesn't even say slaves. Don't use the word Arabic. You understand what I'm saying? This is what you're up against. Somebody's trying to make you think that Islam is theirs. The Prophet Muhammad was an African, whether y'all want to accept it or not. Prophet Muhammad was black-skinned. This is facts. This is not nothing I'm making up. There's men who wrote. There's a man named Sheikh Jahiz, who goes back to the 7th century, who did the genealogy of the Prophet Muhammad and took it directly back to Sudan, proved that he was an African of black skin, and so was Ali, and that Bilal radiallahu anhu came to Saudi Arabia, was not born there, from Abyssinia or Habashi, Ethiopia. Somebody's trying to fool me and you. But those who accept the direct text, the Qur'an itself says, on the last day they'll be sure. Ulaika ala hudan min rabbihim. These are you who are on a huda. Same thing as that. The guidance, huda. What is that huda? That's the same thing you say when you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ahdina siratal mustaqim. Ahdina. Ahdina. Huda. Ahdina. Rise me to the sirat. Guide me to the sirat al-mustaqim. What is the mustaqim? The taqwa. You said it in Fatiha. I want to be like those who are taqwa. And who are the taqwa? He told you right in the next section. Who are the taqwa? Wa yuqinun. Those who did what? Who believe in the scripture, has no doubt, believe in the unseen, they keep up prayer, they pay the poor rate, and they believe in the text of the Quraan and Torah, Injil, and Zabur as being from Allah. None of that says question it. These people in the last days shall be sure. These are you who are on the guidance of their Rabbihim, not Lord, but sustainer. The word Lord has nothing to do with the word Rabb. On the guidance from their sustainer. And these are you, they are the successful. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Now surely those of you who are kafir, don't take the word kafir, as some call kufr, which is no such thing, and think it means disbeliever or unbeliever. The word kafir is the Arabic word to cover something, to cover over, to put a whole plant of seed and put dirt on his kafir. Why? Because the man who came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 4 of them, 3 of them belong to the Ahlul Kitab, so-called Christians and Jews and Sabians. The 4th one was mushrik, belonged to those who worship objects that Allah created. You follow that? And they said to him, what are you doing, Muhammad? He said, Ya ayyuhal kafirun, la abudu ma ta'bidun. You follow that? Oh, you people who are attempting to cover, because you know, you had the Torah, you had the Injil, you knew that he was coming. That's what he was telling you. You knew I'd be here. You know I'm talking Tawheed. You know I'm talking about Wahdahu Allah, La Sharika Lahu. You know who I'm talking about. Don't go back into Mecca and try to make the Arab people here and the tribes that are visiting think that you don't know who I am. You all are trying to cover this truth. And you meet Arabs today that you walk up and say, you Muslim? I'm not a Muslim. Say, you ain't a Muslim? Well, I'm from Egypt, or I'm from Yemen. You find me there and say, you fasting Ramadan? I'm a Musafir. I'm traveling. I'm traveling. What do you mean you're traveling? You're in Islam, a country, there's a mosque. I'm not going to make my salah because I'm traveling. There's a mosque right there. You don't travel away. If you travel from here to Russia, there's a mosque, then you're not Musafir. If you're out in the desert where there's no mosque, then you're Musafir. Then you can say, I only make 2 rak'ah or rak'atayn because I'm traveling. But if you're somewhere in another city, I can't go from here to Mecca and say, I'm traveling so I don't have to pray. This is what they do. I'm traveling so I don't have to fast. If there's any other Muslims around fasting, you have to fast. This was enjoined upon you the same way it says in the Qur'an as it was joined upon those people before you. Which is again before you, which is telling you Muslims that we got to look at the Torah and Injil and those people. Because it says it right there in the Qur'an. Read it when you go back. This is the day and time where all things have to be made clear. That's why I'm here. I'm not supposed to be liked by other Muslims. Because when men like me incarnate, we incarnate with the truth. And the truth hurts a liar. You understand? They look at me and they define me. I know that guy before. But if you know me before, then you should fear what I am now. I remember him before he was a Muslim. If you can figure out a time when I was not a Muslim, and I know 10 times as much as most of the people you know, you should try to figure out where I learned all this stuff in that little bit of time. They say we're looking for a Khalifa. If a Khalifa comes, we wouldn't accept him. What is a Khalifa? Somebody left behind to guide. Ahdina sirat al-mustaqim. When I come, you always fight me. And you always will fight me. If I come as Buddha, you'll fight. If I come as Krishna, you'll fight. If I come as Yahya, you'll fight. When he came as Isa, you fought. When he came as Muhammad, you fought. When he came as Musa, you fought. You're always going to fight the truth. And there's always going to be a bunch of idiots surrounding it saying they got the truth. I can't go to the Sunni Muslim meetings. Because when they hear I'm coming, they boycott. He's going to be there? I'm not going. Why? Because he's not a Muslim. What do you mean? He believes this and he does this and he does this and he does this. You're talking about the Qur'an, you're talking about Hadith. Because the Qur'an tells you what a Muslim is, Hadith tells you what a Muslim is supposed to do. It's a big difference. And if you go to the Baha'i church, you can be fooled into thinking they're Muslim, but they do everything you Sunnis do. The Baha'i. Only if you listen to what they're reading, you'll find out they're not reading the Qur'an. You can look at someone from the Moorish Science Temple. If you ain't careful, you won't know. When they say, and I read the Quran, you won't know they're talking about the Aquarian Gospel by some Ben Levi. Because they just keep using the word Quran. You don't know they're not talking about the Kitab Allah. And I have written 300 and something books on every subject that you can think about dealing with you. You understand? My purpose is already here. My purpose was to reform. You understand? To warn you that you are being misguided. Someone will say, well, he's misguiding you. And don't follow me. You understand? But test the spirit that you do follow. And I'm not talking about so much of what he says out of his mouth. You can rehearse it. I'm talking about what he says out of his body. What does he do? What is he doing for the children? What is he doing for your future? I want you to tell me about our future. If you're here to lead us, you should supposed to know where we're going. Then tell me where we're going before I come to another Jummah. Right? I don't have to be on Friday. Make it Thursday so I know whether I'm coming to Jummah. I want to sit down with the Imam and I want him to tell me what plans he has for my people. But you've got to have a direction. That's the people the white man want to stop. He ain't worried about the normal Sunni Muslim mosques. You know why he ain't worried about them? Because the white man, the devil, whether you want to accept it or not, you will one day. You understand? He can see progress. Why? Because he is a business strategist. From the garden it says, he is the most stubble of all the beasts of the field. He's the shrewdest cat here. He can see when someone knows what they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? Can you see what Imam Isa's doing? Huh? Look. All you gotta do is look. Is there another mosque like this in America? You go to a community, and if that community is based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you understand? The most important part of it is going to be what? The masjid is going to be printed in every building in the place. The masjid, because it's about Allah, should be the most concentrated place. What comes next? Huh? Yes, and what do you need for them? That's right, you need housing. You need food. You understand? But the first thing is the masjid. The next thing is the school. Because you're going to have children, they must be educated. And then food, clothing, shelter. So a mosque is supposed to provide a farm. Why must we have a farm? Because we have laws in the Qur'an on what we can and what we cannot eat and how it has to be prepared, even. Correct? So we have an obligation. We can't go buy a bunch of cows from a Jew and say it's halal just because we want them. I'm sorry, we didn't never profess to eat halal meat. Because we wasn't going to lie. I'm not going to tell you we eat a whole bunch of halal meat. Now, we have our own livestock. I'll say we eat halal meat. Don't lie to people, tell the truth.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم صدق الله العظيم.
Those are verses 1 through 5 of Suratul Alaq from the Holy Qur'an chapter, Separation of Cells. Now the 96th, originally the first chapter revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Translation by As-Sa'id al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. And it reads as follows: Begin all things with the illustrious names of Allah, the yield of the most merciful. O seal of the prophets of Allah, Muhammad, by the supreme sovereignty of your sustainer and creator, you are being ordered to read, by beginning with the name of your illustrious sustainer who created all things. He, Allah, created all human beings of a separating cell. So read, because your sustainer, Allah, is most generous. He uses the quill to teach. He, Allah, taught human beings what they would have never known. You have been listening to The True Light with Saeed Al-Imam Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi. The Nubian Islamic Hebrew Mission would like you to write or send questions to True Light, 719 Bushwick Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11221.
ربنا أكمل لنا نورنا وأكفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. This is from the 66th surah of the Holy Quran, the 8th verse, and reads, O sustainer, complete for us our light and forgive us, for surely you have the power over all things.